Hey, welcome everyone. Good afternoon. A new Diamond Peak TV show. We are on 16th of June, Thursday, and we had another crazy week. Actually, I've been in crypto since 2016, and I don't remember such a crazy week. This has been insane. So what I thought, Vincent is not here today. Vincent is usually the main host, and he's in Norway. In fact, he's driving right now from Norway back to Amsterdam. But I have two brilliant guests. Hugo Leitens. Hugo Leitens is currently working with Glassnode. He's a serial entrepreneur, one of the most brilliant guys I've known. Used to work for Microsoft, used to have his own coin, retailer coin, and used to work for Naga. And then we have Joel, one of the most brilliant professional trader I know. I love him to come and work with us with Diamond Peaks, but we are still not married. But at least he's joining us from time to time to the show. And in light of all the events and what's happening in the crypto market, I thought of inviting you to discuss. And let's begin just by going through what I call the house of cards, the crypto house of cards, and how it all began. And to me, it all began last week. Last week, it was Friday last week when the CPI, the Consumer Price Index result in the US were published, and they were higher than expected. I think people were expected about 8% with all the actions that the Fed has done so far, and the way they came up to be higher than expected, 8.6%, confirming that the US and the rest of the world is in super inflation period, and that triggered a big dump of stocks, of bonds, as well as crypto. So crypto at that time was on 30K, 31K, and it went down immediately to 27. And what happened then? Then we have we need to talk a little bit about technical stuff, but I try to make it really, really simple. So there are different DeFi, decentralized platform, that do different things. One of the platforms that we're going to talk about, they are a staking platform, and this platform they're offering to stake different coins, and the platform called Lido, and Lido Finance, is staking ETH. They're offering to you to stake ETH. And what happens if you are staking ETH, you're getting ETH instead of that, and that needs to be pegged to each other. And on the left side, you can see the pegging mechanism. It's a curve finance, and every time the ETH should be always equal, the value should be always equal to the SETH. What happened on Friday, because of the dump and because of what other reason, the ETH and the SETH lost their peg. So they depegged from each other. That's exactly what started the fall of Luna, starting the next fall of a company called Celsius, because Celsius has a lot of SETH. So if I'm a member of Celsius, and Celsius is a lending platform, so I put my Bitcoin and my Ether and other coins in Celsius, and I receive interest rate. What Celsius does, they take my money and they put it in staking platform, so they can generate even a higher yield than what they promised me. But because the ETH and the SETH, the SETH lost its peg, it became depegged. A lot of people started dumping Ether. A lot of users from Celsius started pulling out their money out of Celsius, and Celsius needed to sell the ETH, the SETH, to ETH. But of course, because of the depeg, they got into financial difficulties and decided to stop the withdrawal. And of course, that triggered another dump, because Celsius is one of the biggest lending platform in the crypto. I believe that in May they had about $18 billion in assets, in collaterals. And when they stop and say that the bank in ABN, you go to ABN AMRO, and ABN AMRO said, well, I cannot give you your money right now, that triggers a lot of panic. and that's exactly what happened. They are working hard on that. You see here a couple of tweets that came yesterday. First of all, a few days ago, we're working as quickly as possible. Alex Mashinsky, who is the owner of Celsius Network, came yesterday and say, well, we're working on top of that, but he has not promised that the funds are safe. And that's a problem. So that's another reason that, another triggered panic in the crypto world. Currently, it looks like they're not liquidating. It looks like getting their stuff together, and their current Bitcoin liquidation price is right now on 14K. 14K, it's still a long way to go from the 21 or from the 20 we are currently now. But hey, we can come to 14K as well. Everything is possible. What also happened is that another capitalization of a very, very, very big venture capital, Three Arrows Capital, who had the same problem with ETH and SETH. They started selling their ETH, dumping the market, creating a lot of rumors, creating a lot of panics, and this is their owner and CEO said, we're in the process of communicating with relevant parties and fully committed. It doesn't sounds to me assuring enough. And that's another problem. This was one of the biggest asset funds in crypto, with 18 billion funds in last November. So this is another problem. Now we also can see that MicroStrategy, who took a lot of leverage and underwater right now, saying, we are working out on our collateral. Currently, the liquidation would be at 3,562 Bitcoin. So they are right now okay, but this all creates huge rumors, a lot of FUD. Here's a nice thread. Rumors about 3AC margin called Celsius. Terra blew up. Lots of funds, like 90% lost 90% of the capital. On top of that, Coinbase is firing 20% of their employees. So yeah, we are in a perfect storm, and I don't know when that will stop. So you see here, crypto market is raised 300 billion in days. Bitcoin dipped to 20.8. This is more or less the price that Bitcoin is also right now. Then we had another event, Tron of Justin he has also a algorithm-based stablecoin, and it's losing its peg as well. The Tron price was dumped again. And another reason to be Justin Sun is the owner. Another reason to get more hysteric and panic in the market. Before we moving on, I just wonder, guys, what do you think? What do you think is happening? What do you think, Hugo? What's your opinion on what happened since last Friday?
Well, yeah, personally, I think this is this kind of things is to be expected in a downturn market. In an upturn market, when everything is going up, I mean, the trees rise until the skies, of course. But if you don't have a sustainable business model actually that creates real value, then in a downturn market, you would actually see that, because if everything keeps on going up, you can easily sustain it. But, the question is, can you sustain it when everything is going down? And I guess the answer clearly is no. And that's definitely part of what we're seeing here.
Do you think it's good for crypto? I mean, on the short term, obviously it's bad. A lot of people are losing their funds. But in fact, we're cleaning up some of those parties that maybe had this, Ponzi scheme kind of type of modules. And they weren't sustainable. And as you said, when the price went up, everything was okay. Luna, Celsius, and others who took a lot of leverage and didn't have sustainable business models.
Yeah. So I think if you over leverage, and I think that in the traditional finance world, what you see is that banks have restrictions on over leveraging, and these restrictions are not yet in place for the crypto market, which allows people to over leverage. And that there's a reason for these kind of regulations. It's to prevent these kind of scenarios. So I think that to be really honest, is it a bad thing? I think it's very bad. But it is to be expected if no regulation is in play yet. I think in Europe that will come in 2024, that everything will become a lot more stable, I would say. So stable coins on itself will be a bank mechanism, right? So you need to have a bank license in order to issue a stable coin. And then you also fall under the regulation of the from under the banks, and that makes everything a lot better. So for a short term, is it bad? Yes, it's as bad as 2018. But now it's exponentially more money than 2018, or a lot more money, I would say. So yeah, it's not great, but on the positive side, it's a great buying moment.
It's a great buying moment. I've been here. This is the second time I've experienced that. In 2018, it was the first time, and I had a lot of sleepless nights. I have a lot of sleepless nights right now as well, because it's very painful for your wallet. But at the same time, I try to look at the big picture. I try to look at some data, I don't know when it will end, because it is the perfect storm. And of course, on top of that, we have very problematic macroeconomics environment with high inflation and shortage of supply chain, and war between Russia and Ukraine, which we don't know where it's going to develop and when it's going to, which hiked again the commodity pricing and the food and the oil. So it's a perfect storm. Crypto has its own problems on top of the macroeconomics problems. It's scary out there, but as Warren Buffett say, when everyone is greedy, you should be fearful. When everyone is fearful, you should be greedy. So that's exactly what you're saying. It's very difficult right now to make a buy, I must say.
Yes.
But on the long run, it may work well. Joel, welcome to the show, my friend.
Yes. Yeah, of course, it's very painful for the investors that are getting worked on in these risky projects. But I think it's very healthy for the market, actually. You need these in this kind of cycles. So when the music stops and everything starts collapsing, you see that unsustainable business models fail. And a lot of these altcoins and DeFi platforms, it's really experimental technique. So it's not fully developed yet. So now you see which projects are getting problems. And you need to have this flush out in order for the market also to recover at some point and get a new bull market again.
It's funny. I wanted to show this last, but I'll show it right now. There's an interesting article from CoinDesk, which I'll share. I'll share the URL at the end of the story. Crypto winter is here. The weak will die, and the strong will eat their bonds. And it's pretty much a sum up of what we are experiencing right now. And as you said, at the end we'll get stronger out of that. We'll become stronger out of that. But it's not an easy time. It's not an easy time. Vincent,
you're also right in that, Aiden, and I think that for the upcoming 2 years, if you have the ability to scale a little bit down and prepare and build for the next bull run, I think that's the best position you can be in.
Yeah, a lot of people are talking about DCA, dollar cost averaging, and I think it's a good time to, if you never invested in crypto or you still think, well, I believe in this. And there's a lot of coins, like the EOS and the Litecoin that and the BCH that will become also zombies coins, as I call them. There will be a lot of coins that will have the same, that will end up the same. But if you believe in this and what you said about the regulation and the stablecoin act in the US and a lot of regulation that are in the making, I think it's going to be a great time. But we have Vincent who's joining us. Vincent, how are you, my friend?
Hey, hello. I'm on my way from Norway to Amsterdam. So I just thought I just would listen in the studio. I didn't want to interrupt in your fascinating conversation in these fascinating times. But I just was very curious to see what Joel and what Hugo was saying. But we definitely live in interesting times. I mean, we're having this discussion in Norway. We had lots of discussion about, hey, everybody should be excited about getting in now. And I actually saw Joel on television saying, this is the first time.
We're losing Vincent. We're losing Vincent, but I think what Vincent wants to say is that you actually say, Joel, in your in Pawn News a few days ago, that this is the first time that we hear you after a very long time saying this is actually a good buy moment. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes. So for the first time right now, maybe you can share my my chart. It's in the presentation.
Yes.
If you share the presentation again. So this year we've been in a price range between 30K and 60K basically. And now for the first time we have broken this 30K level. And we're now entering in a new price range again. And right now it's getting interesting for the longer term to invest in Bitcoin, I believe. Because what you see, if such a level gets broken, you go back into a previous price range. And that's a level that are marked here. It's between the green line and the blue line in this chart. It's a weekly chart. And you can see that, you always want to buy near the bottoms of these price ranges. That tends to give you a good price, good value for your money. So if you buy close to the green line, you can expect to be buying at the bottom of such a price range. Also, what's interesting is that it was in December of 2020, we only spent like 2.5 weeks within this price range. We blasted straight up from 20K to 30K. So it's not a much established price range yet. So that's why also I'm not sharing a daily chart or even lower time frame chart, because there's not much price action yet within this range. But I can see a new price range forming here between 20K and 30K. So if you can buy near 20K, it's a pretty good price.
Let me ask you a question. I read a lot on Twitter that, and even Ronald van Woensel, one of our co-founder in Diamond Pigs and the one who created our algorithm, they all say market needs to go through market capitalization. And that hasn't been done. We haven't seen the blood of the streets. We have seen them in homes spilling into the streets, but they are not really running down the street, the blood. And only when the market will capitalize and can be triggered by likes like Celsius and other, and I don't know, any other event that will happen in the coming days, only then, and people are talking about the 18K, sometimes talking about the 16K, 18K level of support. Only then it's the right time to start buying, and only then we'll start seeing a price increase. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think since yesterday we have, since 2 days ago, we have been starting to see this actually with Three Arrows Capital also getting in trouble, Celsius blowing up. So now we're starting to see this blood in the market. And that's really, needed to put in a decent good bottom. And will this 20K level hold for the rest of this year? I'm not sure. Of course, we can also dip also below this level again. But for the shorter term trades, I think these are good prices again.
Fear and Greed 7. I've never seen Fear and Greed 7. I don't think it has even been on 7. Well, maybe somewhere in 2018. But this is crazy. What do you think, Hugo, on Fear and Greed? Is that would you tell your parents to buy now?
Well, that's not possible anymore.
Okay.
But of course, from a Glassnode perspective, we also have like a Bitcoin risk signal, and that's currently maximized at 100%. So I do believe that from a market perspective, the risk of getting into the game right now, so it's a good question. At the end of the day, it's very challenging to predict prices. But from my personal perspective, if we're going down back to the 10K ranges, that definitely is a all-in buying signal for me.
Yeah, this is a realized price. This is from Glassnode. Glassnode is a great, we're using Glassnode a lot, and this is the realized price in Bitcoin. And a realized price, it's kind of a calculation of averaging the cost of the price that Bitcoin was bought since the beginning. And you see that when we touch the realized price, it's usually really, really bare, and it's usually for a very short period, at least in March 2020. So it's actually aligned with what Joel is saying. And we had also one in 2018 and 19, and we are about to touch it right now. We are about to touch it right now. That may be the trigger that we end up, we really touch the bottom, and we don't need to see a huge market capitulation to start seeing an increase. But as Joel said, we may see a lot of sideways, and I don't see where we're going to end up with a lot of bull market right now. So.
Well, if you take a look at this one, if it's going to be a March 2020 event, we're going to go shooting right up very soon. But if this is going to be a 2018 event, which I'm a strong believer of, I think you can see here that the actual price dipped for quite a while under the realized price. So I wouldn't be surprised if we can expect this for the upcoming years.
Yeah, and you know what's the big difference? The big difference is that in March 2020 we had the COVID, and then we had different macroeconomics conditions.
Yes,
and we had a lot of stimulus and a lot of everyone wanted to help the market to go up, and now everyone wants to to make sure that the demand is going down and to make sure that the markets are going down so people have less money.
By the way, I do agree that this is more like a 2018 market, the bear market. And I think that this, what I want to try to show is that it's only like a temporarily bottom. So I think we have a chance to make a good return on investments in the next coming weeks. But it's only temporarily bottom. So I think we will go lower later in this year, actually.
Yeah. No, so you think we will even be lower than that? That's what you're saying, Joel?
Yeah, but in the short term, I see a really good bottom form here. And also, if I may touch upon altcoins real quick, I also want to point something out for people, also to maybe help them survive a bear market, because I've been through multiple of these market cycles. And what I always see is that altcoins are even more risky, and that really plays out in these bear markets. Because in this last bull market, the best performing altcoins were basically Shiba Inu, which is not much more than a meme coin, Terra Luna, which basically today almost doesn't exist already anymore, and Solana, which was really hyped, but I think that's actually one of the better blockchain projects. But okay, these were the top performers. But if you look at the previous bull market, you had Ripple, which was the best performer in 2017, and also Dash was up there. But nowadays, Dash is hardly in the top 100 anymore. And if you look at the bull market before that, you had Litecoin as one of the top performers and Namecoin. And Litecoin has been, for the past 2 years, pretty underwhelming. So what I'm trying to say is that these altcoins are a lot of times way more risky also than Bitcoin. So some of them will indeed cease to exist. Yes, they will cease to exist. And on top of that, if we get a bull market again in 2 years from now, for example, there's a good chance that some shiny new coins will outperform these old coins. So they don't have the best upside potential, in my opinion. That's why I never hold these altcoins for too long.
No, and I agree. And I think there's a couple of things to say about altcoins. First of all, most of the altcoins are now 90% down. So if there's a moment to buy good ones with good fundamentals, with good tokenization and good teams that keep on deploying the project, then I think that may be the time. But you need to have a very good selection of the right coins. You're right. In 2017, from the 2017, there are 4 coins left on the top 10 right now, on the top 20. Four coins left, and XRP is one of them, Ether is one of them, Bitcoin is one of them, there's another one, and the rest are zombies. So the rest are just out there, but they're not really doing anything. Project are not. So you're absolutely right. So if you choose to invest in alts, it's more risky, and Bitcoin is risky. Alt is even riskier, but there is good. There are some great opportunities. Potential there, I think so.
Very, very risky.
Very risky, but
So for me, this would definitely be too risky indeed. So currently, I'm not looking at altcoins too much. So Ethereum for me is the best altcoin there exists. So it's Bitcoin time for sure. Ethereum definitely, I'm still holding that. But every other altcoin is. I don't think that now is the moment to get into that game.
Yeah.
And the biggest problem that I see is I don't know which coin will survive in the next 2 years.
Yeah, this is a good one to look at, the total value locked on the DeFi project, and this will be the last subject I'd like to touch upon today, and that's a very good. The altcoins are big part of it is the DeFi world, and the DeFi world had seen a huge hype with in November. I think I cannot see it well how much is it, but in November it ended up with 240, I think 240 milliard, 247. And now we are down to 77. So it was $247 billion locked in DeFi platforms, mainly in Ethereum, 50%. But due to what happened to the Luna crash and everything what we've seen in the last couple of days, we are looking at 77. And that means that there are a lot of challenges for the DeFi platforms. And for the future of it,
69% decrease.
69% decrease. People are not trusting those systems, and I think rightfully so after what we've seen in the last month. But what do you think? Yesterday night when we talked, you had a clear vision on how you see the DeFi platforms and the staking platform in the future. Maybe you could share it with the audience.
Yeah, so the current platforms, for me, they have a couple of issues, right, that they need to be solved within the upcoming 2 years. So the first issue is in what I see a lot of DeFi platforms do is they combine digital assets with their own created digital asset. Now, if you create your own coin and you put that in the mix, you're creating a high risk liability into the mix, and then the question becomes: is how much is that? For how much percentage is that mix, and that you combine basically proper assets like Bitcoin with, sorry to say, less proper assets. That's something I can create myself. And I actually compared it yesterday to the MBS products of the housing market in 2008, where they would package these housing like a AAA with a triple B combined, and then it still get a AAA wrap around it. And it feels for me, it feels like that, to be honest. So the good thing is that within the next 2 years, the regulation will come into play, and this will for sure be woven out of the market. And the second problem that I have with the current DeFi platforms, which will also be solved in the upcoming 2 years, is the KYC procedures and the anti-money laundering that comes with it. So, for example, you currently still see a lot of these crypto DeFi platforms being hacked, and then funds are being moved to terrorist states like North Korea, and they actually use that for nuclear weapons, right? So these kind of things actually need to change before DeFi becomes sustainable, right?
Yeah.
And you cannot make a lot of money out of it, but it needs to become a sustainable business.
What do you think about the concept? So the DeFi were actually created, I guess, to replace the central banks, and the central banks that they have a lot of collaterals, and we don't really have a good insight on what's happening in the banks, and they have control on our money, and they are one central body that's controlling the money. And actually, the DeFi platform initially were created by asking the community to create liquidity pools, where on top of the liquidity pools, you can start exchanging or loaning or do any financial transaction services that a normal bank that would be developed. And because you are part of the network, you are being rewarded, like the same if you are staking, if you are staking Ether, or if you're in your part of if you're mining Bitcoin. What do you think about the concept? To me, the concept seems genius. Only that it's very in the, you said in Dutch, in the kinderschool. It's in really the beginning of it, and there's a lot of problems. But as a whole, the concept seems to be very promising, and should and will replace the banking at some stage.
Okay. So if I may comment on this, and I hope Joel also has a different opinion than I have, so we actually get a nice discussion on this. So from my perspective, if I look at that, so for example, a liquidity pool, and I'll take Solana as an example, right? So if you take a look on the amount of coins that are being staked in order to create liquidity pools and get the network up and running, compared to the actual usage of the network, right? We're talking about a 70 to, what was it, 70 to 90% somewhere? I think 70% of all Solana coins being staked. Okay, so that means that the network is actually not being really used.
Yeah.
So are these fundamentals the right fundamentals to build up a DeFi? I don't think so. I don't think that this is sustainable. Now, if I take a look at Ethereum, this becomes a different story, because there's much less value locked into those staking platforms that activate the network, and then people actually transacting and using the network. So for an Ethereum level, it would be all the other way around, I would say. And I think that a few people that help the network become proficient and sustainable is great, but a network that's not being used is never sustainable. So if not a lot of things are being done on the network, then what is the use of the network? And then you can start staking. But in my perspective, you would just be printing additional Solanas and distributing that. And that's actually an inflationary perspective and not a price increasing perspective.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure, before Joel we have staking, and then we have liquidity pools where we are, which are getting rewards in order to create liquidity pools. Those are two different things, but
I mix them up.
In general, you mix it a bit, but in general, you're right that there's still a lot of issues and challenges around the user, and what's actually the right use case to use that. But Joel,
Exactly.
what do you think?
Yeah, in some part I agree, because a network that's not being used doesn't really need this value, and it's more like some sort of fancy Ponzi to subtract more value out of the market and print money indeed. But I also think that it's a bit early to say, because all these networks, they have different solutions in terms of scalability and energy consumption, and people are just betting on different horses, I guess, because they're not sure yet in like 5 years from now which ones will be the ones that we actually use. But I'm very impressed about Ethereum, for example. Like Hugo said, that's the one that's actually being used in 2021. We also mentioned this on this show already. Ethereum did already 4.5 times more transactions than the Visa network, the worldwide paying network. So yeah, Ethereum is actually a blockchain that's being used nowadays. The rest of them, they're all really experimental tech. And that's also why the prices are fluctuating, why these collapses are happening. I'm not sure what to think about them.
Okay, thank you, guys. We're gonna end. I just wanted there's a couple of things, and Joel, you said that I thought it was funny, but also not funny, because it's you seem stressed over your internet money. Let me get you a snack, and then you can add some energy drinks for Celsius and Luna. That makes sure that you will sleep well at night.
Yeah,
So,
are we still going to do the Luna giveaway? I still
Yes, we should. We plan to do that. Let's do some airdrops to all our people who are watching. But guys, thank you very, very much. I enjoyed it. The first time I'm leading this show on my own, and I thank you to have such a great guest. And I hope you guys will come again. And in better times, In better times.
May I ask you one more question?
Yes, of course.
So, Joel, with all of your trading experience and insights in the market, for what should we do?
For the shorter term, like I mentioned, I think it's better in the shorter term to start looking for entry prices again on Bitcoin specifically, and Ethereum as well, I guess, because we're forming a new range here, I guess, because we had basically a lot of bad news back to back in the past couple of days. Yeah. And also the CPI side numbers and the rate hike numbers are now out already. And this was all kind of fear that was yet to be priced into the market. Now that this information is out already, I guess we will stabilize here for a bit. And in the next 1 or 2 months, I can actually see the prices not get too bad. But for the longer term, I guess just accumulate some Bitcoin this year. That's the best advice. And if you have been holding since the higher prices, I would not sell at this moment. I think everything below 30K is actually quite cheap in the longer run if you can hold for 1 or 2 years.
Great, I appreciate that. This was a very good advice. We don't give financial advice, but it's your opinion, obviously. And
yes.
We'll see our guests next week. We see you guys next week. Bye. Thank you very much for our guest. Bye.
Thank you.